Welcome back to Sport Integrity Week, presented by MasterCard. Day 2, very much underway. We started bright and early at 7 o'clock GMT, 8 o'clock CET, with a fascinating panel on the impact of COVID-19 on sport. We've had a keynote speech from the ICSS, and in a moment we'll be hearing from Kate Hamer and Louis Saha. I'll give you all those details in just a second. Later we'll be addressing piracy. That's going to be a fascinating panel, and we've also got a session powered by the Football Supporters Association. David Goldblatt is our moderator there, and the renowned Guardian journalist who moderated yesterday, David Conn, is also part of that panel as well. Do get in close. Now, through the app, you can ask your questions throughout, and we'd love them to be as engaging as possible. Keep firing them away, and we'll integrate them into these sessions. And if you do miss out, we'll try and connect you with some of the panelists and moderators afterwards as well. And on social media, you can use the hashtag SIW, of course, for Sport Integrity Week, and we've got loads of your comments already. In addition, every so often, hopefully covering most of my face so it doesn't look too tired this early in the morning, you'll see a QR code, and that, if you're tech savvy, will allow you to donate to SIGA. It will sync you up with the Eventbrite donation link. If you're not that technical, then go to our social media handles and you can just see the URL in our social bios as well. By donating, you not only help us, but you also get to shape our strategy as well. In the process of donating and throughout the week, you can participate in a poll, and that poll basically gives you all the different funding options that we're looking to explore, and you can vote as you donate which one you would like us to focus on, and that will directly influence how we distribute the money raised between now and Friday. So please do donate either using the QR code or the Eventbrite link is in our social bios. So let's move on now and get an athlete perspective. As I mentioned a moment ago, we'll be hearing from Louis Saha and Kate Hamer. As sport focuses on transparency and integrity, athletes' needs are sometimes overlooked. Professional sports stars are, of course, very valuable assets, and with that comes a range of different parties who interact with them on a day-to-day basis, both whilst they're playing and after they retire. Some of these parties and individuals don't always have the athlete's best interests at heart. And as a result, the former France and Manchester United forward Louis Saha co-founded a company called Axisstars alongside Kate Hamer. Their company aims to ensure that sports stars don't just become commodities. And I'm delighted to say that both join us now to tell us more. Kate, Louis, it's over to you. A very good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Ben. Hi, everyone. So, Ben did a perfect introduction there, so we can get straight on with it. Obviously, Louis, you've been an athlete, so you've seen it from the different side. I think a lot of the agenda over this week is around organisations, federations, etc. But what's your experience as an athlete in terms of transparency and integrity in this industry?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because a lot of things are said about transparency, integrity, but there is not very much concrete action. So basically, you're surrounded early on in your career with a lot of people who's going to propose you something, going to say the salesman speech, or saying, oh yes, they are the greatest, they are the best, they have all the best intention for you. So you have to really find who to trust. So it's really hard, because there is no much of platforms or environments for you to really understand who to pick. So all those things are really hard, and this atmosphere of work is not great, because you're starting to see that all the surrounding are really not there for the right intention, or most of them. So it's really tough, because the organization that we trying to look for help or for guidance have different actually, I would say, targets. Your parents don't have the tool, or the friends or whatever, your family don't have the actual business market kind of view. So all those things are making yourself have to take a gamble, and taking a gamble in your life, who in terms of your career only lasts maybe 10 to 15 years if you're lucky. It's really tough, because you may find out maybe down the line, after 4 or 5 years maybe, that's the agent that you pick or your advisor that you pick or your lawyer that you trust has done damage, it's going to take you a big chunk of your career away, those big decisions. So it's really, really hard. And then there is like another effect that because of your experience now, after 3 or 4 years or maybe more, you're starting to actually not trust the industry at all. So you're scared and you say, oh, you know what? I really have to give away or get detached to everything because it's so complicated. When actually it's not. It's just about like getting the right people around you. All those moments in terms of like education and process of like awareness are very, very important. So we understand that federation have a duty to promote the game and promote their national team, and leagues have like the same, but may have a look at the broadcasters and making sure that there is more fun in stadiums and clubs want to win trophies. You have teammates. We are all very kind of like individual in our own space. We want to play, we want to win, we want to score. So it's really not about like building some kind of like understanding altogether about things. And the media, of course, let's say, are more focused on getting a lot of papers out and stories out. So there is no such a thing about like trying to educate, try to get the right structure, to have the right ethos and all those things. So it's a lot of things that can be done in just one question. I answered a lot.
So obviously there's, you focus particularly on the sort of advisors or agents or lawyers that you have around you, but there's so many different organizations that you have to put your trust in as an athlete, whether it is your club or whether it's the league or the federation or the media, if you're going for an interview with them, or your teammates, like you said. How long do you think it took you to sort of understand that when you first started your career? And did you ever get to a point where you were sort of clear on the objectives, even of, say, Manchester United on a bigger scale when you were playing for them, or are you sort of shielded from a lot of that as an athlete, so you're kind of focusing on the next game but don't necessarily realize what the bigger picture is?
Yeah, that's exactly, when you are surrounded by a lot of people, your entourage will say to you, listen, you have to really focus and be as good as you can as an athlete or whatever talent you have. So in terms of like, as I said, the option is to really give away all your control. And whatever the organization, as you are very young, you're 18, 19, you have to trust. Maybe, it's like the purpose is like your agent is saying this, your club is saying that, and your medical staff will say something about your health. You will trust. You will, obviously it's like an organization, they've been there for 100 years and all that. So all those people have like a bunch of experience. So you trust, you have to, and on the same time, you have to remain very focused. So it's a very comfort zone and a very good bubble that they have built. But at the end, it doesn't give enough information in the platform to actually develop yourself personally. So it took me personally to retire, to actually get into a bit more management, understanding. I was like writing a book, so I get into searching or researching and try to understand. I was like trying to create a guide in some way. So this is only then that I understood. So imagine some players who is 18, 19, who get like dragged into that fame and into that luxury, into that I would say like passion about sport, and all this environment with everything good that you have in front of you. You get lost in so many ways, and it's really hard to refocus and get that kind of, I don't know, like kind of reset in some way. Oh, hang on a minute, I have to do this, I have to focus on the right thing. This will disappear, this will not be there when I will be 35. And those amount of people, so all those organizations really need to maybe change this mentality, change this kind of like culture, and so many things can be achieved by making sure that we're not saying to the guys that everything is complicated when they could be simplified. They really need to do many things in terms of education, awareness, and at the same time give responsibility. Those guys are smart enough. They have so many tools in them based on the culture of sport. It could be resilience, it could be organization, it could be as well that kind of like sense of like a massive focus. And all those are good to learn. It's a good tool to learn and hasn't been, I would say, exercised enough.
Well, the good thing is that you're obviously using all of your learnings now and you've developed Axisstars. So tell us a bit more about how the idea came about and how Axisstars works.
Yes, so let's say the idea come of like the realization of like that fact that I gave before. It's like, well, hang on a minute. How is it possible that nothing is done? Nothing is concrete. Nothing is easy accessible in terms of information, in terms of profile to pick and all those things. So I just felt like towards the end of my career that something needs to be done, and we were looking for answers in federation or clubs or unions, but nothing was there. So basically, what Axisstars does is creating that safe environment to facilitate connection between the stars, so they can share good and bad stories, all that to the purpose of educating and reinsuring. There is like no better advice than some advice come from someone who has lived the same thing as me. I will feel more secure because Rio Ferdinand or Lewis Hamilton has done something and think that I should be doing the same. I would be, oh, okay. And someone selling me another pitch, another product or something like this. So this is very important. So we done that in the fact that there is like so much numbers were horrific. 50% go bankrupt. So no, it was not right. So creating a profile in that environment, like LinkedIn in some way, help those guys to be visible, help those guys to be reinsured and have that kind of protection around them, and that only face and qualified service providers, so agent, lawyers, wealth managers, but it could be as well car suppliers, performance coaches, nutrition, whatever it is. Those people up front of them will be qualified. They will be going through a due diligence by our ethic committee, which is like not us as a company. It's going to be people with gray hairs, with a lot of experiences. It could be helping us to get the right people. And the second layout of protection will be the rating from the actual peers themselves. So stars, like whoever who has strong contact with those partners, those companies will be rated and provide some really useful indicators. So basically, a youngster or a newcomer will come and will see, has like other platforms I've done, like on Uber or TripAdvisors or Netflix. You see when you want to pick a movie, when you want to pick an hotel, you have like some proper numbers who are helping you to choose. And this is what we want. We don't want to have those, let's say, members to gamble anymore. It's like it's a 15 years window, but then there is like 40 years to go. Like they have to have like make the right choice during that time. And this is what we are trying to provide and get them in the sense of like education process, change the culture to have that autonomy. It's very important for us as a company, as an organization, to provide them the confidence and the autonomy to do a lot of things. So this idea is like, it's a long-term project. It's not going to be a 1 year and you just join on the thing and you're going to find everything you need in one go, because it's a process of learning. Education is long.
So obviously Axisstars is for all different athletes and all sports, bringing everyone together. So that's another opportunity to kind of share more learnings. You mentioned about unions aren't necessarily already doing the sorts of things that athletes need? Why do you think that is? What are the sort of obstacles to athletes being able to get that level of support from their unions?
It's obvious, and there is some organization, as I mentioned before, have like different targets. We say about federation, we say about clubs, we say about like sponsors. They want more commercial things going on their ways, and all sorts. We understand that, and this is the name of the game. And sometimes even unions could be tied with type of contract and commercial aspect in their organization. They've been helped by TV rights for some reason. That's gonna make them sometimes a bit more political than they should be, when they should be only focus more on actually helping the players' welfare. And those things are starting to change. Maybe they have done a few things, but it's not well known. It's not easily accessible sometimes. So those are things that is maybe come from the players' realization of like, oh, this is available for me, and I have the time to do it. So there is like a 50-50 where the unions should do more and the players should do more to actually get into that process. They should be out of that comfort zone sometimes, and this communication is not done correctly. So that's why we think we have a very good, I would say, chance to interact correctly with this, because we have not such an attachment, or we are very impartial or neutral in so many ways, that we can do all this. We can facilitate this access and this information, and unions can actually do the job even better, because now they have, I would say, a more concrete tool and more a modern tool, attractive tool in so many ways to actually get those players or those members out of their bubble and their comfort zone. So it's really important that during the career they get that process going, and for the unions to actually do that before anything happens, in prevention more than like the fireman. It's like it's already too late. It's not good.
So what sort of advice would you give to athletes? You said it's sort of 50-50 and they obviously need to make some effort on their side to educate themselves and stuff. So what are your top tips in terms of what athletes should be doing right from the start of their career?
I think there is like a process, especially at the start, where it's maybe painful because obviously so many people are telling you to really get focused. You have to be like trying to learn your job and understand the pressure, understand all those aspects. So you have to really learn. It's not easy, but you have to really focus on your personal development as well. Because when you get that on board, maybe the first 6 months to 1 year or two, then it's becoming a habit. You have like already got your eyes on the right things. You got the vocabulary, you can use it. You can actually ask the right question. You can make sure that people around you understand exactly who you are and what you want. They can't mess around anymore. So you have that kind of like protection by getting more information, not thinking that you get away. And we have players right now, we have like numerous athletes who have proved this. Some are younger than others, but they manage with their learning curves to actually get to that process. And there are good examples like the Anderson who actually provide a platform for players to come together as well. And Sterling talking about racism, like Rashford, what he's done, it was just like amazing. There is like Louis Hamilton, all those athletes have managed to show that it's possible to get a certain personal development platform to do during the career. Like this, they are even stronger and have like more option after the career. So all this is like get to understand as much as the unions want and as much as the clubs want. They talk about transparency, they talk about integrity. They really need to do the action like this. Those can really change, because if at the end of the day, all those players want to do things and the media is coming into their back because they have done not maybe perfect or something like this, it's really damaging, because those guys who have the power to make so many good stuff, they will be afraid. And you will need to be a Lewis Hamilton, you will need to be a Rashford, you need to have that 1 to 10 million followers backing you up. Otherwise, you could be marginalized very easily. So the federation, the unions, the sponsors, the fans as well, who could participate in helping those players to get a better environment of working and developing, it will be massive help, and a lot of things in the community then can benefit from that, because we have seen with Anderson, we have seen it with Rashford, what they can do, and I'm very, I would say, excited to follow those paths of like those stars, because when I was playing, I didn't feel like I had this influence or had that power, and I realized maybe after, that's why we are so dedicated to do it. And this is something that so many players, whether you're famous or not, because we are trying to help every players who have a contract, who can actually use their experience to help others. We're going to try to do that as much as we can, and we need to be at the start very transparent on the way we're doing it, and very consistent as well, because education is all about consistency. If one day I say something and the other it's another path that I'm taking, people lost path. So really have to be really consistent and organized. So all those showed really some kind of like consistency. Anderson as a captain, as a leader, even if you play for Liverpool, and it's fine for me. And you have like the Rashford done tremendously well, Sterling speaking really correctly about it, like with consistency, and very smart. I'm very admirative with them.
And I think you're right in terms of size of platform and stuff. We saw just last week or the week before, Flo Williams and the Enough campaign, and the way in women's rugby that's made such a difference, with Canterbury now committing to always using actual players in their kit launches and stuff. They don't necessarily have massive followings, but they all came together and were trending on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. So do you think that maybe the organisations within sport underestimate the potential of athletes to actually talk about other things? They sort of put them in the box of having run a certain distance or scored goals or done whatever they've done, and they use them that way. But do you think they're missing a trick in terms of being able to use their voices for other topics?
Definitely. Like a few, let's say, like, the George Floyd things happened, and I've seen a lot of people in the street and all that, and started like a lot of like Lewis Hamilton, and I respect and I love as an athlete, like speak out, and as I said, they are very strong fellas who can do that. But even before, it was hard. They were scared. The platform was not there, and every time, as I said, as like we've seen with LeBron James as well, like people, especially in higher ranks and political in some way, will like to take picture of you with a new ring as like an NBA champion or World Cup champion, and all that is fine. But when it's about like talking about politics, they don't really like, because they know how many people are following you. They know the influence that you have, because people are more, I would say, like connected to those guys. And I don't think that they're being used correctly. They don't give them the credit enough. They know they are smart enough, maybe, but they don't like it. And that much control they have is based on the media. Is based on maybe sponsors. Every single moment, they can maybe turn around the actual fans around you. You make one mistake, so all those three could be out of the window. So you have to be really, really careful as an athlete, because you won't be able to actually focus as much if you have that kind of bad pressure from those three, So this need to kind of like change, but on the same time, you need to change from the players or from the athletes to come together and not being scared anymore because they are now surrounded by other people like them. And I feel like this community need to be alive first for those reasons, and need to be promoted by the organizations and clubs and agents and anyone who is like a stakeholder have a really influence or big say about this, need to realize that, because if we really want transparency to be a word and to be used, then there need to be proper action. And the best, as Nelson Mandela has mentioned, it's athletes to do that. Sport can change the world, and not enough is done towards this and concretely. So I'm very, very excited.
Okay, we've had a few questions come in, and if anybody watching has got any other questions, then please do put them through on the app so that we can see them. We've got one here. Whenever a match fixing case is discovered, the players are the only ones who get punished. Why don't the competition organisers that selected a malfunctioning format share the blame?
Yeah, it's always easy to blame the actual actors in so many ways. So you're gonna have like maybe more papers like from, like for a week you have like the name of the players, trying to defend himself and all those things. So in terms of like that kind of pattern, always it's gonna be something to accept in so many ways, because it's like there is some big chunk of people who like to get attention. So on like it's a difficult one in so many ways. If I understood correctly, the question is about if some bad organization has been done from the players.
It's if a player is involved in match fixing, but obviously the format of whatever the match is the thing that's facilitated the match fixing effectively. But why is it just the players that get the blame and the punishment?
There's so many things about that, but as I'm not a big gambler, I feel like I will skip this question as much as I want to remain really relevant. What I'm sure about this is, like, as we know as a player, that we should not get involved with anything like this. So it's normal to be blamed, because at some point we are a massive influence. We should really get very careful about anything, any involvement in those things. It's wrong. So you have to take your blame, but the organization, whatever, has to actually protect the players to not be like able to do anything. So we have like definitely heard enough in clubs. They give us like the platforms to really understand the impact. So it's yes, integrity have to be on every part, and everyone have to stick to it.
Yeah, and I guess as well, though, with the whole match fixing thing, that can come back to transparency and the sort of support and education that players get. Because again, if they're thinking my career could be over in 2 years, and how am I going to be, catering for my family and all that sort of stuff, then maybe that makes you more susceptible to it. So
yeah, it's all about education, as you mentioned, Kate. I think it's very important that people understand the impact, and like especially when things moving, technology is moving, there is like few things available that were not there 5-10 years ago. And if you don't educate them and say, oh yes, this is public, this is it's harmful, you can't speak this way, you have to take sometimes the right platforms, the players to the right platforms to make them understand. And it could be private session, but it could be as well based on what we are doing, without doing any promotion here. But it's like getting those people inside a room and making sure that they understand. And I don't think that is done correctly, because it should not be happening. We have seen from social media when he appeared, a lot of mistakes that has been done, but maybe everybody was discovering it. But match fixing, it's just not good. Should not do it. Yeah, it's like.
Cool. Thanks for that question. That was from Ingby, the co-founder and CBO of Match Vision. So we've got one here from Chiel Warners, who is the information coordinator of match fixing the national platform in the Netherlands. While I encourage the work you do with and for athletes, I wonder what role you envision for them in the governance structure around integrity in sport.
On every layer of those organizations, because like if athletes get involved, I think it's like giving another perspective. There is like some who are very good at what they do, politically, organization, whatever it is, media, marketing, all this is like very important. But in terms of like integrity and making sure that those like eyes can understand the actual eyes of a player is very important. As an athlete is different than someone who has a courses on business. It's different. So I think that it's very important that the players as well make the step towards that, because they can really help. And I've seen it with some of the organization with FIFA and UEFA are getting like more and more players involved, and this is great to see. I think that there is more need of like unit like this to help on a bigger scale, because if we want to really change the industry, you need like big numbers. Every one of the federation or organization need to understand that.
Okay, that leads us on quite well to a question from Ilan. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Do you think agents require training to understand the broader issues impacting sport, such as social issues like Black Lives Matter?
Basically, there is like a lot of things could be done with agents. First, I would say that there is a platform, again, where agents have to really work hard. It's not an easy job. It's like something very important. They have a position that is very crucial in the career of a player. Some is taking too much control, some are good, but are fighting against the others because they don't want to lose their players. So all those things make them focus maybe sometimes on the wrong things. They want to protect, they want to care about their clients, but it's sometimes really tough. So in terms of like trying to educate them, it's really tough unless they are in a good platform, unless some bad agent will be sanctioned when they do something bad and not being able to operate as much as they do. And this is the problems, and that comes from organization as well. And I don't think I understand, I can't understand why it's not regulated as much as we understand the impact that they have. I don't understand. I just, then we say, oh, we want to educate those actors who have that much influence in our sport. How the most influential person around them is not to educate those players. I mean, like, it doesn't make any sense. You want those players to be educated and represent as a brand or represent as a club or represent them as good as you want commercially and all those things in performance, but you don't educate the people around them. I mean, like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And this is why I think it's good to say about integrity, it's good to say about transparency, and then say about education. But if you don't actually clean up or educate in some way this ecosystem, is going to be really hard for education. You have to be transparent, you have to be consistent, you have to be organized, you have to be regulated. It's not about being policing or something like this, but when something is done and is like against the integrity of players, it should be sanctioned. And there is so many things, stories about agents and saying and this, but I mean, like, if you go into a deal and it's a bad deal for a player, I'm sorry, people have to understand that it is not only coming from an agent, it's coming from a club who is allowing as well those things to happen, because otherwise no deal is signed. If the club accepts, it's like, I'm sorry, but it's wrong. So agent was doing wrong are held by clubs, directors or whatever. So we need to really understand the clubs or the organization and agent have to do better. And players have to get involved in changing those things and by numbers. And this is why we need to really change the culture. And I'm fighting against that. Hope that unions join us, even if you are more political or something like this. Doesn't stop you to help. Doesn't stop them to help, because we are here to help. We, I'm sure, have like other people who want to help. Those guys need to be helped, whether they are another company or whatever, but they have this purpose. You have to be investing in those people. You have to, because it's the only way forward. So I'm really annoyed in the way we're talking about agents, because there is so many things that are allowed. They allowed it. I'm sorry. You should stop.
So Jonathan Booker has asked, how do you envisage evaluating between one agent and another as the right choice for the player, and where and how will you source this representation?
Yeah, this is where I think it's about like building trust, and nothing could be done on just like on the one day. Even if you pick a right agent, it will need to be educated in some way to understand what you need. So many players are difficult to manage. I was difficult to manage. If someone come and tell me it's this and that, you have to really convince me. So it's not an easy match, So all those things, it's about education. And we understand that there is some who are willing to understand that. And some say, oh, I've got the best formula and that's it. We know as like, if organization, because at some point, like it was like back in 2015 or 14, if I'm not wrong, like the deregulation of like agents, all those things is make it like almost impossible for players to pick. They're now trying to go with the team members or go for big organization because they need reinsurance, and both of them seems to be better. How I pick like the massive agency who can represent the best and the lesser players in some like representation. They prefer that. They know that they have skills and they have experience. Maybe they prefer the family member because they know them. And in between, there is like a gamble. And this is what is really, really bad. And I think me to give an advice and say how you can pick an agent is really to challenge him. You have to tell me how you're going to do it. You have to understand. You have to sign a contract in a way that you have to follow my rules. You have to be there for me, not for you. You're not selling me to a club because you have a better commission in that club. You're selling me in that club because you know that I'm going to play. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be in my best interest. And it's not because you invested how many grand, because they do invest in you. Sometimes you have to pick dinners for your family. They have to play PlayStation and do a lot of things to make you happy. And they have to invest a lot of time to understand the industry, talk to you, reinsure you, speak to club representative and all those things. So they invest. So at the moment, it's a business. So at some point, they want something back. We understand that. But you should not forget that you work for the client. And this is about a lot of communication, get involved, challenge the agent, and asking all the challenging question. We think that it's always healthy to speak to somebody as a lawyer as well. So the lawyer can maybe give you another layout of like a reinsurance and say, oh yes, you can or you should ask those questions.
Yeah,
it's really important to have your parents as well involved. So make sure that they understand their limit as well, because parents can be annoying as well in deals. So you have to as well manage them. It's really strange configuration, but you have to do it. And may all those things are set up in 1 year, maybe 2, then it get comfortable, because everything is set. Could be changing, but it's still you are the boss.
Yeah.
And then those people sometimes forget, and they start to get more control because they have leverage with other clubs. They know more people than you. They have more, like I would say, not only connection, but there are more, I would say, leads. They understand. They can they can play with a lot of things, but still you are the boss. You have to challenge them.
I think there is an element though that particularly young athletes probably need to be aware of, in that someone telling you what you want to hear doesn't necessarily mean they're the right person to advise you, and actually someone that tells you some of the stuff that you don't want to hear and isn't promising you the earth could end up doing you a lot better service and actually deliver more for you in the long run. We've got a statement from SIGA. So Katie Simmons, General Counsel, says, congratulations to you, Louis, and the Axisstars initiative. I was a registered lawyer with the FA and worked with several Premiership footballers and was shocked by poor advice, lack of financial knowledge and over-reliance on entourage that were leeches. Knowledge is power. SIGA is a platform open to all, everyone, to bring transparency and accountability in sport. We commend athletes for using your power and voice to bring from the dark into the light. And then she asked a question about, do you think all the player needs is a trusted lawyer, financial advisor, and an excellent PA rather than an agent?
I think it depends. I won't say that there is a best formula for everybody. There is the best formula. You have to be comfortable. May sometimes you have the difficulties. Like for example, you are in England. You have a good agent, a good lawyer, a good accountant, whatever it is, and then you are transferred to Spain. So it's a different factor. Oh, hang on a minute, what's happening now? My company or my setup is not international. It's not ready to work as good in Spain. So you have to partner. All those things happen from clubs to clubs, because you may end up with some, I would say, better setup at the start, and then things change, and you have to evaluate. So all those things is about challenge. And if a lawyer or an agent or an advisor, whoever it is willing to learn, is willing to partner, is willing to open, is is not scared to work, maybe not in his comfort, for his client, is the best formula. So whatever it is, the player is saying, oh yes, I want a one-on-one treatment, so I will call every day, I will call all week and all that. Fine, but not every agent who could be good will like that. So they have maybe other clients and all that. So you need to find the right formula depending on a client. And this is what is really hard to say, what is the best formula for an agent, for a player. What I'm sure is the process of learning who you are and your development. It's very important. This is more important than having an agent or lawyer, or because if you understand and now you're asking the right question, you can have anyone. You can have 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, because you understand what their role. If you have someone for your brand, if you have and you understand, you'll be fine. If you understand the one for the lawyers and making sure that you learn with him when you read the contract, because you will have to read the contract. You will have to. And if someone say, oh, don't worry, I take care of everything. No. This is bad sign. No, you have to educate you. You have to make sure that you get it sorted in your head, that you sign, that you or some kind of an advisor, an investment. You have to understand. If anything is too complicated, don't invest. If anything is too complicated in signing something, something could be wrong and you're gonna pay it. You're gonna pay it, no one else. So be careful about educating yourself, making sure that you have the actual overall overview and all sorts. So it's very important. And then you're gonna pick the right team. If you don't know yourself, it's gonna be really hard.
Yeah. Last question from Alfred Mbatho, who's a sports management uni student. How can organisers make sure that in every event, all teams are treated fairly and they must enjoy the event?
In the competition?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the game. You always feel like there is like some advantages, some bigger teams and all those things. So sometimes it's a tough one in terms of organization of tournaments and competition. You always feel like there is something. I always like see Jean-Michel Aulas, the president of Lyon, always like in advance, and he can see from the start of a competition things that should be like this, should be like that. He's always like very picky about things, about dates of games, hours, or whatever, referees and all that. It's really amazing me how knowledgeable he is on every aspect of the game, And this is the thing about organization. You can't please everybody. You just can't. The organization is like it's fair at the start, but there is like things that it's about sport. Organization is always going to be like this. You will feel like you should have this, you should have that. I don't think that I give a great answer here, but this is what I feel. It's you have to accept. Sometimes things go your way and sometimes not.
Well, I suppose it's difficult as well, because even if the organisation does everything to make it a fair competition, obviously every team is trying to do something to give themselves an advantage. So whether it's about the away dressing room at football stadia or whatever it might be, there's always things that competitors are going to try to do, isn't there?
Yeah, but in relation to the sport itself, it's all about the players. It's all about the competition. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes it goes your way. Sometimes the referee blows. Sometimes it's not. And of course, we've seen like conspiracy theories with Real Madrid getting penalties, Manchester United getting this, getting that. Yeah, it happens, But what I'm sure that we definitely have to fight match fixing and drugs or whatever it is that are not helping the integrity of the sport, because it's. I think when you look at it, just look at how difficult it is to cheat in our sport. To cheat, like in a way that you compare. I'm sorry, but to compare to fashion, fashion can like appreciate surgery. You can appreciate people who get into drugs, or it's fine. They do the job and it's fine. Athletes is not possible. You can't do nothing, but still there is still things to be improved. And because health and sport is the best vector for whatever you see, it's like it's a great example. People are coming together. So for me, it's the best value you could find. Of course, like I love my culture with cinema and all that, but still, for me, they can do whatever they want. They can retake a scene. It's fine. They do all the makeup, all the ethics. All those things is fine. But athletes are not fair. It's really that's something. I love the fact that this industry love the authenticity. It's really important in the core of those things. It's simple. It's live. It's sometimes you go one way, sometimes you go the other. You can't predict everything. This is why I love my sport, and I do everything to make it even better for kids and better for us as a fan.
Great. Well, I think that is a good note to end on. Sport can change the world, and hopefully everyone involved in Sport Integrity Week is going to be instrumental in making sure we do that in the best possible way. So thank you, Louis, and thanks everyone for listening.
Kate and Louis, thank you very much indeed. A fascinating panel. I'm just going to jump in here with a couple of final questions and also get Kate to reiterate the Axisstars social handles and website as well, in case people would wish to learn more. But I was listening to you talk there, Louis, and you touched on a number of really intriguing points. And one thing I wanted to pick up on is your thoughts on players protecting players, because during the COVID-19 pandemic, one thing we've seen is footballers at times, particularly in the early part, scapegoated. They were told they needed to do more. They were encouraged to take pay cuts. There was a feeling that somehow governments should ask footballers to bail out sports clubs and even organizations beyond. And then, of course, as a direct result of that, Louis, we then saw players from different clubs coming together, collaborating, and the Players Together initiative was launched. And the players in the end, by using their own statuses and brands and collaborating and protecting each other directly, actually ended up fundraising and coming up with an amazing initiative. And it turned out that in retrospect, they were wrongly scapegoated for not acting fast enough. And what they did instead was use their own leverage to fundraise and have a very positive impact on COVID-19. So how do you think players within a club and between clubs can protect each other and have and continue to have that positive impact?
I think that's what I'm saying. It's a change of culture where it comes from maybe the top, it comes from the players themselves to realize that things can be not on a even level, but they have the same amount of power in some ways. There is like a clear understanding now that those players now are respected. Before, I don't think like before COVID, it was the case. It was really hard to see this. But what Anderson, what Rashford, Lewis Hamilton, like Flo Williams, and all those like great athletes, whatever small, I'm saying small in terms of influence and followers, has the courage to do. It's like an inspiration for me, for some like who are scared because they don't want very impactful to do that. It's really encouraging to do that because at the end of the day, we know we have the power to change things on a big scale. We haven't been given the platforms, and by even imagine 1,000 Rashford or 1,000 Anderson, imagine the power, imagine the consistency week in, week out of doing good things without the help of politics. I mean, like, this is a dream. I will feel like there is not enough. I don't know why there is not enough done towards that. I don't understand. And we, as an organization, didn't get the support that we expected to have. I'm puzzled. I just can't understand. I say, you know that we are doing good. You know that those are doing good. Why are they not helped? And those are the things where players, where athletes need to really come together and do it and force the people. It's like going in the street for Black Lives Matters. It's like when there is 1 million people in the street, then sponsors, then big brands are doing things where they knew maybe. They knew it. They knew about what was wrong and all that. Now they are being influenced enough to do things. So may it come from the athletes.
And just a final one from me. Another aspect of protection is in reacting to a mistake. Give me some insight into, as a player or through Axisstars, that process after you've done something wrong, after you've posted an unwanted tweet, because we've seen two high-profile incidents, very different incidents, one involving Harry Maguire on holiday where he was arrested, and another more recently with Phil Foden and Mason Greenwood on England duty. And in both cases, we see the PR spin, we see the apology, and you may not wish to speak specifically on any incident, so feel free to either delve into the topical nature of either of those or talk more broadly from your own experience. But my question is basically, Louis, when something goes wrong, tell me about the process of protecting the player. Is it a call to the agent first? Is it a public statement first? Is it talking to the club first? What's your advice under those circumstances when a player does make a mistake?
I think there is like so many aspects and different depending on the situation. Where we talk about like those matters that you just mentioned, it goes to one is like clearly is legal and prosecution. It's a really bad story. So all those are like really about like making sure that the integrity of the actual players is like not in danger, and having a call with like whatever the agent, whatever who is like this advisor, a lawyer, making sure that they have like collected all the information. Because what happens when you don't have all the information and you make assessment, is very dangerous. You may think this, you may think that. The players or some people will say the witness will say something and all that. No. The first thing is to have all the fact, making sure that you have all the story. You understand from A to Z, and then you take the right strategy. You're saying, oh, we need to make a statement. We need to actually apologize. We need to not apologize, whatever it is. But without all the information, this is the first thing. You need to get informed, and then you have the support. You will have the support of the right people around you. It could be the club. It could be the agent. Some organizations are good into helping the reputation, so they have like a set of like of a process to really like slow down the process with your lawyers and all that. So all those things are available only if you make the right choice of like getting all the facts together. You have to collect and making sure that you have understanding the situation from the bottom. And obviously, like everyone have like a different maybe way about it, because we had that kind of webinar, remember, Kate, with Rio Ferdinand, who came up and explained the it was about a racist comment or racism situation, and he helped the other stars to understand his choice and his regrets and stuff like this. It was really good to have this setup of privacy with other players to get this story out. Like this, players can understand if they come up in the same situation, how to behave, because someone went through the same process. So an advice is to get as well the information from people who actually went through those things. So no, not everyone will have the same story. Those youngsters who just went out and do whatever the story, I don't know, and not gonna say something I don't understand, but make a mistake. They have to really understand that it's part of the life. You have to accept, you have to apologize, you have to, whatever, accept your sanction and all those things, and make sure that you are now become an example and saying, no, players, you should not do this. I will feel like so compassionate, because yes, they are human beings, and in the same way, it's so stupid in some way to get caught on stuff like this during that time, and then. But that's being young, and then sometimes it's being dragged into something. For my career, for example, it's a difficult situation.
It does come down to the education side as well, and just making sure that you've got the right people around you, because what we see often with athletes is that they hand over their social media to a young person who understands social media, and that's great that they know how the platforms work, but they don't necessarily know about brand strategy or crisis management or how to advise when there's a PR disaster and stuff. So I think it can be quite dangerous, particularly we see it in football, that a player sort of hands over their social media to their best mate who manages it, and they do some great content when everything's great, but you do need, like Louis was saying earlier, the people that have got the experience in times when things go wrong, and also even when you're planning in advance so that you're prepared for things.
Great stuff, Louis and Kate. And Kate, just before we go and round things off, a lot of people will be listening to the lucid nature with which you both talk and that insight that you've alluded to, and they'll want to get involved with Axisstars, or they'll certainly want to follow you on social media. What are the best ways to do that and keep in contact, and even potentially approach you if they would like to collaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything is super simple on social media. We're just at Axisstars across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. So AXISSTARS. Our website is axisstars.com. You can contact us through that way, or you can contact us directly on LinkedIn as well. We'd love to speak to people. We are growing the number of partners that we've got in the platform and growing into different markets. So it'd be great to chat to anyone who's interested in getting involved.
Lovely and fascinating stuff. I've also very much enjoyed the fact that Kate's jumper and the throw over behind sort of bleed into one another, and I think that's intentional because of how stylish she is. And when somebody's that sort of organized and clued up in that fashionable way, that you know that their business is going to reflect that as well. And I think that it's been really interesting to learn about Axisstars and hear the insight from Louis Saha and also Kate Hamer as well. So please do contact them if you would like to get involved. And if you've got any further questions, I'm sure that Kate and Louis will be happy to talk to you individually throughout the course of the week as well. But Kate and Louis, thank you very much for now. And as I say, we'll move on with Sport Integrity Week over the course of the next day and week with a series of other panels, some of which also do focus on athlete protection. We've got one coming up over the next few days on safeguarding, which is going to be really interesting. And we've also got another on media rights, which will touch upon athlete brand and rights too, and the value of their individual platforms and how they can be leveraged by clubs, and how athletes themselves should know what the value of themselves are when they're dealing with clubs or external partners in order to maximize how they can use their own individual brands or platforms. But for now, we're at around about 9:30 GMT, 10:30 CET. So join us in half an hour for our next panel. That's entitled Sustain the Game and is powered by the Football Supporters Association. So we'll be back then. That's hosted by the journalist David Goldblatt. David Conn is on that panel as well. He was one of our moderators yesterday. So stay with us, keep engaging with us. Thanks for all your questions so far. And don't forget on social media as well to use that hashtag SIW.
Hello everyone, and greetings from Budapest, Hungary.
Hello from Kosovo.
My name is Jerice Cologne.
My name is Louis Saha.
Thanks,
I'm
guys.
Ian Smith.
Cameron Casolas.
Edwin Moses.
My name's Aki Sheikh and I'm Head of Starlist and Integrity Services here in London, England.
I'm Senior Manager of Member Associations Governance Services at FIFA.
Integrity is the bedrock of all competitive sport. Without it, there is nothing.
By definition, it is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles.
Integrity is surely one of the most significant elements in sports.
As a cricket umpire, one of the most important tasks for any umpire is to make sure the decision making is as efficient as possible. This can only be possible if umpires work with integrity.
Perhaps now more than ever, we recognize the importance of this vision for sports and the need for integrity in every aspect of sport.
We are a member of SIGA, and not only because we believe in integrity in sports, but to the fact that we believe in coalitions and collective efforts to achieve change.
We all know that sport is one of the most powerful things on the planet for bringing about societal change, and we all want to be part of that, and we want you to be part of it, and we absolutely all need to do it together.
This is a task none of us can achieve on our own. It is one that all of us must achieve together.
I believe that together we're stronger.
Together, united, we can effect positive change by developing and promoting integrity principles and values.
I would like, first of all, to praise SIGA's leadership in the persons of its chairman and its CEO for having had the courage to organize this event under the current circumstances.
Thank you to SIGA for the work that you do for sports integrity and for the example your independent rating and verification systems for the world of sports.
Organisations such as SIGA, who are there to make standards better and to uniform all the standards throughout the industry, are needed.
SIGA is unavoidable and unrivaled organization with unrivaled role in the field of the integrity of the sport.
I think this first Integrity Week is very important.
ISST is proud to be associated with the SIGA movement.
I am proud to partner with the Sport Integrity Global Alliance and participate in this year's Sports Integrity Week.